Hi, I'm Maddie. Really good to see you here today, everyone who's joined. And I'm a ceramic artist from Brighton. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Dogu. I first discovered the Dogu about 10 years ago when I was doing my degree in sculpture. And I just found them really fascinating. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the history of them today, and then I'll give you some information about how to make one of your own with clay, and then I'll let you get on with it. And also I'll do a demonstration, so if you don't have clay today, don't worry, that's fine, you can just watch me. So these are the Dogu. And I just find them very sort of powerful and mysterious objects. Historians aren't really sure what they were used for, but they think that they were used for some kind of ritual, sacred purpose. They're all made by hand from clay. Just let me have my notes. So Dogu means an earthen figure. So obviously the clay comes from the earth. And they're from a very long time ago. They're from the Jomon period, which was 2500 BC to 300 BC. As I said, they're not exactly known what they were used for, but they are mostly female figures. And so they were thought to protect women and children in childbirth. But they could also have been representations of the earth goddess and used in fertility rites or rituals that would encourage a good crop and, for everyone to be fed well. So as you can see, there's a great many of these objects, and hundreds of them are often found in one place. They were usually in or around a settlement, so and they were often broken, and they seem to be broken on purpose. And it's believed that the actual breaking of the object was like an offering of prayers. Some of them were actually enshrined and buried very carefully in the earth. So the smaller ones were, like I said, were often broken, and they could be snapped. They were made so that they were able to be snapped in pieces, a bit like a chocolate bar. Could you go to the next slide, Kate, please? Yeah, so these are what's called a cruciform shape. And I just think it's important to remember that these were made thousands of years, possibly, before Christianity. So it's nothing to do with that kind of cross. But I think they're just a simple form of a human being, or to represent a human being. Could you go to the next one, Kate? So that's one of the cruciform shapes. As you can see, these lines around the edge, they're thought to be made with some kind of like fibre, like string or something, and it was pressed into the clay when wet. If you could go to the next one. Some of them were larger and they were hollowed out, and they had lines kind of incised into them, possibly with a stick or something else that was sharp. And then next one, please. And then there were masks, and some of these have kind of patterns on the face, and that is possibly thought that they were facial tattoos. As you can see, the one in the middle has these strange large eyes, and those were possibly to represent snow goggles, and not, as one historian thought, they were a tribe of ancient aliens. but you can see why they thought that. So yeah, they're all made from clay, just dug straight out of the ground and then formed by hand. And then they would have been fired in just a normal bonfire, wooden fire. Yeah, if you could go to the next one, Kate. So again, you can see there the snow goggles or the large eyes. Yeah, and the next one, please. Yeah, and the next one. Thanks. So over the centuries, they developed from small handheld talismans, like in the first pictures that you saw, and they became more like these larger sort of freestanding figures, where the legs are quite large and sturdy, and they were kind of hollowed out. And that's thought they were built like that so they could stand up on their own inside the household, as in a shrine or some other sort of ritual space inside the home. So yeah, that's the history. Yeah, so if you're going to make one of these, obviously it doesn't need to be an exact copy. It's just a starting point really, and I just find them very, very interesting forms. Somewhere to start from really. And yeah, I mean, I love working with clay. I just find it a really relaxing thing to do, and it's fun. So yeah. So when you work with clay, yeah. So if you are doing this, following at home, obviously you need some clay. I'm just going to show you now what I'm doing. So if Kate could let me know if you can't see properly.
That's fine, Mel.
Yeah. Thanks. So what you'll need is clay, obviously. Now you probably use air drying clay, but myself, I've just got normal clay. And the difference with that is air drying clay obviously does what it says, it just dries in the air. So it's not like, you know, a normal ceramic sort of cup or something. It hasn't been fired in a kiln. So if you're using air drying clay, that's fine. It dries in about, well, 1 to 3 days, depending how thick the clay is. And after that, you can paint it. And you could also, once the paint is dried, you could varnish it. So that all makes it stronger, but it's still not going to be like a normal piece of pottery. Yeah, so when you're doing something with clay, it's important to have something a surface to put it onto that's not going to stick to. So say, for instance, if I just did it onto the tablecloth, it would, you know, if I just press that on there, after a while, it might stick and then I wouldn't be able to release it properly. So always have something like a bit of card or a wooden board or something. What the other things you might need are a little pot of water. So that's just an old humus pot, a sponge, and you can just cut up, you know, a washing up sponge. The other stuff you would need is a small knife. So it could be a kitchen knife, or that is actually a potter's knife. But yeah, kitchen knife is fine. Just remember to wash it afterwards. And so yeah, stick or something to make lines with, something like that, or you could just use a pencil. That's fine. And because I was talking earlier about the cord marks, you could use a piece of string to create those lines. So for example, if this was something you were going to make flat, you can just press it down. You know, I've got just a normal rolling pin, but if you don't have that, that's fine. You can just flatten it down with your hands. And then to make that pattern with the string, you just press it in. So lie it where you'd like it to go, and then press it in, following around the edge of the shape. and then it'll leave, I don't know if you can see that okay. It will leave a line. Yeah, so that's all you need really. Just how to work with clay. When it's air drying, it will obviously dry out, and the more you handle it, the drier it will become. So it may crack, you know, at the edges it may crack a little bit. So just dab your finger in the water and rub some water on. You don't want to get a whole load of water and squeeze it on because that'll make it too soggy. Yeah, so it's just a few tips to remember. And oh yes, when you want to, so for example, if I had 2 different pieces of clay, say I wanted to make a figure that was my body. I'm just doing this very roughly so you can see how to join them. Say that was the body and I wanted to make a head. So I just get 2 different size lumps, flatten the piece where they're going to join, make it flat with your fingers, and then take your knife or whatever sharp thing you've got, and it's called scoring. So you just do a kind of crisscross hatch on both surfaces. And then again, just dab your finger or take a bit of sponge, dab some water on there. And this just makes sure that when they join, they are actually properly joined. So you squash it on like that. And you could join it with your finger as well to make sure it's really solid. Because if 2 pieces of clay are joined together, say I'll just put that and that together, because clay shrinks when it dries, they would just pop apart like that. So this just means, you know, if you make a nice figure, then the head won't fall off. So yeah, there you go. Okay, so any questions? Anything you'd like to ask? If there's no questions, what I'm going to do is just show you how to make a couple of these different figures. And yeah, if you'd like to know anything or you'd like me to go back over something, then that's fine. Just ask. Okay, go back down here.
I think I was just going to add, if anyone wants to see any of the pictures again, I can put them back up. Yeah. But it might be best if Maddie's going to demonstrate, then we can have her screen a bit bigger. Might make a bit more sense. But let me know in the chat, or if you do want to see the images again.
Right, so I'm just taking a lump, and you can see kind of what size it is in my hand. So it's not that big. So what I'm going to do is flatten it out. And this is what's known as a slab. So it's just a flat piece of clay. And I'm going to make one of those cruciform figures. It's splitting there, so I'll just join that together. When you're rolling, just do a few rolls and then move it so it doesn't get stuck. Or, you know, as I said, you don't have to have a rolling pin. You can flatten it with your fingers, just squeeze like that. So yeah, and remember not to make it too thin because yeah, it needs to stay in one piece. So yeah, you've got your shape. Then I'm going to draw an outline, I'll probably just use the knife. Oh yeah, I thought I'd show you one that I made before. I don't know if you can see that. So you can see the string marks around the edge, and it's got holes for eyes, and that could also be to hang it up with. You could put string there and hold it, hang it up on the wall. So okay, I'm just going to take my knife and make that shape. Can you see that okay?
Yep, that's fine, Maddie.
So it's very simple. Kind of just like a rounded cross. Right, so I've drawn that now, and I'm going to go over it again just to make sure I've gone right through. Press down a bit harder that time. And then you just pull away the clay, the extra clay. Okay. Right, so then you've got that, you know, it's roughly across. It's not symmetrical, but that's fine because the Dogu won't always perfect like that. What I'm doing now is just smoothing around where I've cut, and it's a bit rough. But when the clay's soft like this, you can easily do this. You can make it smoother, and then when it's finished, it comes out nicer. Any little sort of crumbs like that, just take them off. Just smooth it all around. Okay, so there, got the beginnings. Now, maybe I'll move it round, see which bit would look best with the head. Yeah, I think actually that arm bit is way too big, so I'm just going to take a bit off there. Yeah, that's better. Right, so I think, yeah, I think we'll stay with that as the head. So now I'm going to take this pointed tool and make some holes for eyes. Push right through to the other side. Remembering not to make the holes too near the edge because that might split the clay. And turn it over and you can just smooth the back because they're sticking out a bit. So that's, yeah, and also it could be a hole for the mouth. I'm not sure. So while it's still nice and soft, I'm going to take the string and go around the edge and make the markings. So if you just press it along the edge. And keep going up here. So I'm just going to look at the picture myself. Okay, yeah. So it's got markings down the middle as well. And it kind of looks like it's wearing some pants, but I don't know if that's actually what they're meant to be. Okay, so I've kind of copied it a bit, but now I'm going to do my own thing. Because, yeah, you don't have to copy it exactly. Yeah, so I'm going to take something else, and there's like a square shape on the end of that, so I'm going to use that. It's quite good with clay. You can just press stuff into it and it'll create shapes. I'm going down there with that. Make some lines with the knife. So, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. Okay. It's almost like a bit like a gingerbread man. Yeah, that's that one. Now I'd like to show you a different way of doing the figure. I can just find the right picture. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to show you one of the cylinder figures. And that's one that I made before. This is with a different kind of clay. It's a terracotta clay, so this will be kind of like light red, sort of orange colour when it's fired. And firing is when it's put in what's called a kiln, so it's like a very, very hot oven, and it fires it up to about 1,000 degrees centigrade, so you couldn't do it in a normal home oven. Yeah, but that hasn't been fired yet, so it's still quite delicate. So this clay I've got here, this grey clay, that's going to come out white when it's fired. And then you can put what's called glaze on it. But these Dogu figures didn't have glaze on. They're mostly just fired earth. Okay, let's show you what I'm doing. So for the body, I'm going to make kind of cylinder shape. So it's already kind of in the right shape. That just makes the bottom flat. I want it to be a bit more round, so I'm going to just squeeze it a bit with my hands. Press it in with my thumb. I'm just making the base a bit broader so it stands up okay. Sorry about the banging. So I'm just squeezing the lumps and bumps out to make it smooth. And I'm running my thumb along it where it's still soft. You can do that to smooth it out. Right, so now I've more or less got a cylinder shape. Sorry, I'm just going to move that a bit. Okay, so from the bottom, now I'm going to show you how to make what's called a pinch pot. Yeah, I mean, this isn't going to be a pot, but it's the same principle. So you put your thumb into the middle of that part and push in. You need to be careful not to come out the top. So just push as far as you can, but not too far. So now there's a nice hole in there. And yeah, we want it to get to be wide like that. So what I'm doing is from the inside, you put your thumb on the inside and then your fingers are on the outside. And you're just pressing together. That's why it's called a pinch pot. So keep moving it around. I was holding in the other hand. See the hole's becoming larger. Still a bit thick, so I'm just going to keep going for a little while. See it's cracking there a little bit. I'm just going to smooth that over. And I'm evening out all the sort of lumps and bumps because the walls of this in some places are a lot thinner than others. So I can tell by how I'm squeezing it together how thick or thin that wall is. And I'm just evening it out as I go along. I'm pressing into right at the top because that's very thick up there. Yeah, so almost there. Taking the top off. A bit hot. So yeah, now I'm going to make sure that that bottom is kind of even. So I just tap it on the table, nice and flat. And now I want to add the head. So if you remember from earlier, flatten down the surface. Could be done like that. Then that's a bit flat there. No, sort of size head. Okay, so I'll just get another lump. I can roll it in between my palms. It becomes rounder. More rounder. Now on this one that I'm looking at, the face is kind of flat, so I'm going to press flat shape. And then I want to try it out on here. See if I can join it. Okay, so I'm just going to flatten the edge of that. It sticks on okay. And now I'm going to do the scoring. You do your kind of cross hatch on one side and then on that surface as well. And to get sponge, a little dab of water, oops, and some on the head. And I'm going to squeeze them together and push it on and join with my fingers. Something about working with clay, I just find it so relaxing and almost like meditation. I kind of forget everything else around me and just really focus on what I'm doing. Yeah, so I've kind of smoothed the two surfaces together. Now they're joined, I can shape it a bit more. That's the inside. I'm smoothing it down with my thumb. It's a little bit lumpy. Keep going all the way around, smoothing out those lumps. Now I'm going to shake his head a little bit. It's leaning to one side, so I'm just going to straighten it up. Yeah, it's a little bit straighter now. It's kind of leaning back, but that's okay. That's how I want it. So I'm going to make the face now. Look at my sharp tool. I'm just going to hold it in one hand there and kind of draw into the clay. Press in, not too hard, but enough to make a line. So I'm kind of doing like an eyebrow and the nose. If you can see. And then the mouth is kind of just like a little O round mouth. I'll just use the end of that because that's the perfect shape. Any little bits that kind of come up, just gently smooth them away. And then I'm just going to do a little, maybe I need something a bit finer. Yeah, I think I'll use the knife to make some eyes. You know, you can make whatever kind of face you want. It doesn't need to be copied from the Dogu, but I quite like them because they're very simple. And yet quite powerful looking. So there's, I don't know if you can see that right now, it's down there. It's the little face. Okay, so now I'm gonna, there's some holes down the front in the one I'm looking at, so I'm gonna make some holes. I think I'll probably use that again, 20 wooden thing. I'm just, sorry, let me get that down. So I'm just, again, always hold whatever you're doing, because while it's soft, if you're pushing into it, it could sort of all cave in. So support it from the inside, and then I'm going to make a hole here. It's coming out the other side, and then I'm not sure why these holes would have been made in this way. It could have been possibly because they had a candle inside, or, you know, but we just don't know. I like to think it might have been that. So, you know, when it was put on the shrine, it was light was coming out of it. Right, so now we've got holes in the front. And it also has, like on the other one, I'll show you, there's lines crisscrossing through the holes. I'm not sure what the best tool is for that. I'll try this one. I'll show you. I'm just going to draw these lines on really. kind of going round holes in a kind of snaky pattern. Two lines together. And I'm not doing this perfectly, so don't worry if it's neither are you. That's fine. And then on the other side. Yeah, so that's the kind of snaky pattern. And you can add other stuff if you want as well. You can, you know, put dots on it or more lines. Yeah, whatever you feel like, really. Okay, yeah, so that's that one. Has anyone got any questions?